Have you ever heard of something so bad that it actually becomes iconic, just like Tommy Wiseau's The Room?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Or that Arnold Schwarzenegger Christmas special on YouTube.
The devil.
But I wanted to ask the question, are there any comic book covers that are so cursedly ugly that it actually becomes extremely collectible? Can there be something so ugly it becomes iconic? I think so. So I've got a stack of some ugly comics here. We're going to rank them from, it's just ugly, all the way up to, wow, it's so hideous, I need it on my wall. I'm going to start us off with a pretty famous one. This is going to be Rob Liefeld's cover of Captain America #2. I am not a Rob Liefeld hater. Rob Liefeld has done so much for our medium. You got to give it to the guy. And honestly, people have sometimes on occasion made fun of the art style. I think it's a product of the times. I don't have an issue with it. I do think he has made some silly decisions in the past. I think this is one of them. It's not a great looking cover, but it's the floating heads that just really drive this one home. Mainly the floating head down by his leg. The decision to do this makes no sense. It does not look good. It's actually made this cover quite famous. So I'm actually going to put this right in the middle as hilarious. I think this is a goofy one for sure, but we've certainly seen uglier. Next up, we have New 52's Catwoman 39. This is the Harley Quinn variant. Sometimes people make fun of Harley Quinn, and I get it. She's got a smirk on her face that I don't think was drawn too cute, doesn't look quite right. But I actually want to drag your attention to Catwoman, who just, the anatomy is a nightmare on this, and I think the face turned out even uglier than Harley's here. Catwoman is supposed to be the cutest chick in all of comics. Odd decision to make the anatomy and the face look so rough. Just ugly. I don't think that this one's going to have collectability because of it. I think it's just ugly. Next is one of a few that you're going to see of photo covers. This is Marvel Team Up 128. And this is the one where they have an actor playing Cap and Spider-Man, and they just tossed it in a city backdrop. I personally think this is, once again, hilarious. It's not one that's going to command a huge value because of how funny it is, so it's going to be middle of the road. I would drop like $1 on this if I saw it in the dollar bin, just to have it because of how it looks. And we gotta talk about Morbius #2. This is a classically hideous cover, and I do think that this one actually does get a price tag of about $5, sometimes even more. And the driving factor that makes it collectible is the rough, odd choices behind the artwork here. Believe it or not, this is a book that I can understand why people would spend the money on it. It's absolutely dumb looking, and sometimes you want a little bit of that nostalgic stupidity, and here you go. Also, you can't talk about that one without talking about Max Brooks' The Extinction Parade. Very similar. I almost think it's maybe even an homage. That one's also a particularly ugly, up-close and personal cover. This one's not quite as iconic, so we're just going to put it in just ugly. Let's go with What If #93. This is another one of those anatomy-confused covers. This is Wolverine all out of whack, and there were a few artists that were drawing Wolverine a little bit odd around this time, but this one kind of takes the cake. This is a bit of a cursed cover. It looks absolutely ridiculous. It's not quite iconic though, simply it's just not that well known. So we are going to park it under just ugly. Then we have Action Comics 695. I actually talked about this on my failed 90s gimmicks video, which was a great video. Definitely check that out if you get a chance. This was right in the middle of that chrome everything era. And unfortunately, this cover just gets confusing. You can't really tell what's really supposed to be happening here. Is he seeing his reflection in this enemy? It's not clear. It was not designed correctly. It looks not like how they would want it to look. So unfortunately, it is a little bit just ugly. I don't think it's particularly funny. I just think it's ugly. Can't have a list like this without the Savage Namor the Submariner 26. This is another one of those peak 90s anatomy what the hell moments right here. And you know what? This is one that people will pick up because of how silly it looks. I don't think they're dropping anything more than $1 on it, but yeah, I would pick this up myself. Not quite iconic, but I do think it is hilarious looking. We got to do Action Comics 457. This is an extremely odd decision that makes it look very, very rapey. It is not a cute cover by any means, but it is iconic because of how ridiculous it is.
And it's just iconic through and through, in its own way.
Then we gotta go with DK3, the Master Race. This is actually a 1 in 100 variant. It is the most expensive book I bought in order to prepare for today's video. I actually dropped like 70 bucks on this. So you know what? This is one of those comics that is so hilarious to my eyes. I think it is the ugliest thing I've almost ever seen. The baby in the backpack, the pose, the anatomy, how her head looks. I can't believe this is Frank Miller. This is a treasure as far as I'm concerned. It is so bad that it pulls to the other side and becomes iconic. It is cursed. I need it. It belongs on a wall. It is so perfectly hideous. Next up, we have the Punisher 57. Now, from the front, it may not look so bad, actually. You might be thinking, I know that book. That's not that ugly by any means at all. Well, do you know that there's an interior extra cover? And it's another one of those photo covers that looks so stupid. What were they thinking? I am so glad they put a sleeve on the front of this cover because that is a nightmare right there. I don't even think it's hilarious. I think it's just ugly. Then we got to do Wolverine Revolver. You knew that was going to be on the list. I think this is so funny. This is the epitome of my humor right here. Whenever you have a comic that I just don't even understand how it got made, that is so funny to me. I think this cover is hilarious. It actually goes all the way up into the iconic. All right, then we have Shadow Riders #3. Now, this is an extremely busy cover. It hurts your eyes to try to catch it all. But you've got anatomy issues, you've got way too busy, inking problems. This is actually the epitome of what not to do with a cover. And because of that, and I think because of how cluttered it is, we're going to put it under just ugly. It's not quite to the levels of having any collectability. I think a lot of people don't know this one. Then we're going to do another famous one, and it's famous for a reason. I call it the Demon Baby. It's Shazam #6. It's another photo meets cartoon cover. And this one is nightmare fuel. This is, it's got that little kid in Shazam's lap, and it's just terrifying, honestly. Now, this is absolutely iconic. This one has quite the reputation with it. I actually think that this one is pretty cursed. I do think this belongs on my wall. I just love how iconically terrible the decisions were behind this. I think I'm going to put this on the top of my list, and I think it is quite collectible because of the bad choices. Then we have Youngblood Strike File, you know, the famous Rob Liefeld Captain America cover. Well, actually, that's just a famous picture. It's not the cover. This one is just like the cover, and it's with Youngblood. I think it's a little bit of a wink at the camera. With this 90s book, I do think he knows what he was doing, and I think it's an intentionally bad cover, and I do think it is pretty hilarious. I would go so far as to say that it is iconic. It's not going to run you a lot of money, so I'm not going to say it's got a big collectability, but this is certainly one that I would totally pick up again for $1 if I were to find this in a dollar bin. We have a very recent entry here, Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Alpha 1, the variant. Wow, what a mouthful. This is another one. I don't think it's quite as terrible as the 1 in 100 variant with the DK3. But it is certainly a far cry from something you would expect to come from Frank Miller. Once again, we've got a what the heck was he thinking cover. I don't think it's iconic, but I do find it a bit funny. I really do. This is one of the recent ones that got a laugh out of me. I couldn't believe they felt comfortable putting this out on the stands for the public. It is hideous. Oh boy. So you know what? That is going to be under hilarious. Then we have Peter Parker, Spider-Man 55, the classic upside down cover. Now, I feel differently about this. Honestly, I don't even think the cover is that ugly, to be honest with you. I think this is a very artistic interpretation, which is very abstract for a reason. So some people say this is really ugly. I bought it just for educational purposes. But to be honest with you, I don't think it's hilarious. I don't think it's iconic. And I kind of don't really think it's just ugly. So I'm just pulling it from the list completely. I like this cover. I don't know why. It's just a soft spot in my heart for it. Then we have War Journal 64. This is a nightmare cover. It is so confusing. It's so rough. I've talked about this once before, but there is an open page. When you open this book, there is a clear image underneath it, but it doesn't match with the front at all. Usually when you have a die-cut cover, it matches up or it shows something very specific. They didn't plan on it, and literally cover A doesn't match cover B. There's no cohesion at all, so you just have a completely pointless die-cut cover cut completely at random that doesn't do anything with the second interior cover. Looks terrible. I would never have picked this up off the shelves back in the day. It's just a whack-looking book. That is just ugly, my friends. Then we're going to go with Avengers, number 392. This is one that's got some fame because of the mistakes with the inking. Now, if you look really closely, it's kind of like, what the hell am I looking at? That's because everything is so dark, it's kind of almost impossible to see. I don't really know what happened here, to be honest. I don't think it's funny enough for it to be in hilarious or iconic or really having any collectability. So I think we're just going to put this one in one of the ugly categories right here. I'm going to end the list with my personal favorite. This is like brand new. This is X-Force 48, and I got a legitimate laugh out of this book. Tell me what you guys think of this. This is like a couple weeks or months old right here. I legitimately laughed out loud at the cover of this book. It's hilarious. It's cursed. It looks like a child drew this. I cannot believe Marvel was okay with this being put out. I am so glad for it. And to prove that there's collectability, this stupid book put me back like $15 buying this on eBay, and it is worth every penny. As far as I'm concerned, this is just the right amount of hideous that perfectly matches my humor style. This belongs on the wall as a forever reminder of what the hell were they thinking. Guys, let me know what other covers are out there that are just so ugly that you actually want it for your personal collection. And as always, keep on hunting. I will see you at the next video.
Make sure to come down to Sentiment Depot Antiques and Collectibles, where I'm set up with all of my comics, located at 238 West Delaware Ave, Pennington, New Jersey. Open every day except for Monday and Tuesday. Enjoy 10% off from Wednesday to Friday. See you there.